Hey, welcome back to another episode of Iqra podcast. I am Isra and I am inviting you to join me in my reading journey. Success. Different things come to our minds when we hear this word, and because its meaning varies from one individual to another, there is no single way to define it. It is, however, something I bet each one of us wants, but still not everyone really strives for. We often feel inspired and motivated listening to the stories and reading biographies of successful people, or as they're called in today's work, Outliers, which is the title of one of the most interesting and insightful books of the Canadian journalist and the author of 5 New York Times bestsellers, Malcolm Gladwell. The book came out in 2008, discussing a very usual topic in a very unusual way. It's not a work that will show you shortcuts to success, or that will tell you how to achieve greatness in the shortest period of time. And honestly, I'm not a big fan of such works because for me they're too superficial and they lack the in-depth treatment and analysis we need. Outliers, by contrast, is a book that will provoke your thinking and make you reconsider the misconceptions you have in this regard, and look at the whole thing in a totally different way, a wiser and a more reasonable way. The author argues, using empirical evidence and profound observation of some cultural phenomena, that success, unlike the majority of us believes, relies more on external factors, and that societies and many of the policies they adopt play a fundamental role in determining who succeeds and who doesn't. The stereotype we hold about famous people, that they made it all by themselves and that simply they had the talent and passion to achieve what they have achieved, is horribly misleading. Well-known writers and software engineers like Bill Gates or Bill Joy, the best hockey and football players, professional athletes, rock stars and business tycoons, and all those outliers of whom we are in awe, took all the credit for their success, while in fact they were just lucky enough and were provided with the right opportunities in the right time. Parentage and patronage had a hand in the success, and neither the environment nor their origins and circumstances were passive in the process. It was rather a combination of ability, hard work, and most importantly, opportunity and arbitrary advantage. At the beginning, the author mentions a phenomenon called the Matthew effect, which refers to the idea of accumulated advantage. That is to say, once an individual is given an advantage, no matter how small it seems, they will keep gaining more advantage over time. And the same principle applies to those who begin with disadvantage. Or as it's summarized by the famous aphorism, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. To illustrate this idea, Gladwell draws attention to something we rarely pay attention to. That is the eligibility cutoff dates for baseball and hockey leagues or international soccer. An observation has been conducted by Canadian psychologists of the elite soccer, hockey and baseball teams where a large number of players were born in the first 3 months of the year. It is no accident that the best and brightest players of those games are the closest to the cutoff dates. Their only privilege was their birth dates, something they neither made nor earned, and that allowed them to be better than their peers who are born at the end of the year, in terms of physical ability and maturity. And this way, they get chosen for the representative squads and receive extra coaching and experience, which unfairly ends up in them being outliers. All of this is due to the imbalanced distribution of birthdays and the arbitrary choice of cutoff dates. This arbitrariness, on the other hand, is a result of our biased understanding of success, which causes last-longing effects, not only in sport, but in more important areas like education. The same pattern has been noticed in maths and science tests in many countries who adopt a similar policy. Older students regularly score better than their younger peers, not because they are more talented or skilled, but simply because they were the beneficiaries of some extra months of maturity, and consequently they get better teaching and keep gaining advantage over others. Just imagine how things could have been different if only we were aware of the influence of such policies and the role they play in helping some individuals thrive and preventing others from doing so. The second chapter, however, highlights the importance and significance of hard work and practice in the equation of success, which contains a lot of variables, and only by understanding and painstakingly analyzing each one of those variables can we uncover the secrets and unrevealed truth of extraordinary stories of success. Although innate talent and intelligence are very necessary, they have a threshold, and they're never enough to reach the top. Researchers have estimated, according to several studies, that the minimal amount of practice time required to excel at something and reach true expertise is 10,000 hours, and that's nearly 10 years of practice. And this applies to all fields. Neurologists assume that apparently the human brain needs that period of time to achieve mastery, and unfortunately, it would be very hard to reach that amount of practice time in an environment that doesn't help you do so. Another interesting story is that of the two prodigies, Chris Langan and Robert Oppenheimer. These were both brilliant students with high IQs, but the difference between them is that Oppenheimer, who was more successful, and in addition to general intelligence, which is related to analytical skills and the ability to understand and apply complex reasoning, he had what is called practical intelligence, which cannot be measured using IQ score and is more related to reasoning in real-life situations and social skills. Now, if we rely on the traditional and simplistic view of success, we might think that Oppenheimer was born with both types of intelligence and that his ability to know exactly what to say, to whom, how and when to say it was something innate. But it was not. It was rather something his family background provided him with. He was simply lucky to be born to a wealthier family, which is a cultural advantage. And here comes something that is lately consuming my attention and thoughts, the impact of family on who we are. The study done by the sociologist Annette Laro illustrates the difference between different types of families in their parenting philosophies, which as a result were divided into two categories. Children of wealthy families and the middle class had a schedule full of activities that have served them in many ways, such as sport, theater, reading clubs, music, etc., and had their parents involved in their free time, teaching them how to negotiate and communicate things rather than passively receiving orders, and preparing them properly to navigate the world in a way that suited their preferences and matched their desires. More than that, the generation we are born in matters, and sometimes what seems a disadvantage is actually a hidden advantage, and you'll find plenty of examples to explain that in the book. In the same context, we move to another thing that the author sheds light on because of its huge contribution to people's success, which is cultural legacy. The concept means that people inherit some of their ancestors' practices, traits, beliefs, and values that are likely to play a big part in the way they react to events and respond to their environment. Moreover, a strong evidence about the impact of culture is what is known as the ethnic theory of plane crashes, which is a study done by Hofstede about power distance, individualism, collectivism skills, and uncertainty avoidance within different cultures, and which unexpectedly shows that there is a correlation between the scores of those dimensions and the number of plane accidents in those countries. Basically, the reason why Asian airlines had high rates of accidents in history is that they are considered a high power distance culture, and that affected the way inferiors communicate with superiors. The way they are taught to behave in the presence of an authority resulted in a lack of proper communication between the members of their flight crews, which, in combination with other elements, led many times to disaster. So, if this has to teach us something, it would be that we should never overlook the importance of one's culture. At the present time, Asian airlines are among the safest airlines in the world because they took the issue seriously and acknowledged the strengths and weaknesses of their culture. In the same way culture made Asians among the worst rated airlines, it allowed them to be among the best nations at mathematics. Asians are very good at math in comparison to their Western peers, because the number name and system of languages spoken in Asia is known by its regularity and transparency, whereas the English system seems to be arbitrary and unlogical. Also, there is a noticeable gap between the memory span of the speakers of each of those languages, in view of the fact that English words are longer than those in Chinese or Japanese. These differences in the construction and nature of these linguistic systems were able to create a huge gap between the academic achievements of their people. In addition to this, The dependence of Asian agriculture on rice is surprisingly one of the factors that helped Asians score high in maths. Rice cultivation, as is described in the book, is complex in nature and skill-oriented and requires a lot of energy and effort. And since it is considered a work where there is a positive correlation between effort and reward, Asian farmers in the past were always motivated to improve their land management by becoming smarter and investing most of their time and energy in farming. It is from this that Asian cultures derive their recognition of the efficacy of hard work. As the Chinese saying goes, if a man works hard, the land will not be lazy. This belief was so powerful that it persisted across generations and is considered as a built-in advantage that has helped Asian students succeed in school and excel at maths because their cultural legacy has equipped them with relevant skills like problem-solving, persistence, and the willingness to complete complicated tasks. I will really need more than 10 minutes to discuss all the things that were mentioned in this amazing and captivating book that parents, educators, and everyone should read in order to reach a better understanding of things and maximize human potential. It really stimulates the mind and makes the reader see the world differently. I will appreciate your feedback on the episode, and any remarks or suggestions are welcome. Thank you very much for listening. Take care and see you soon.